Hey you, you've spent 2 years being told that a kid in San Francisco called the entire AI boom before anyone else, wrote the manifesto, and got unspeakably rich being right. He did call it. That is the part that makes this so much worse. Because last week, Leopold Aschenbrenner, 24 years old, the guy who told the world exactly how this would go, got margin called into a crater. $45 billion down to about 10, in under a month. And the man who picked his portfolio out of the wreckage wasn't some rival genius with a better model of the future. It was Ken Griffin, buying it at a discount. Because that is what a Thursday looks like when you are Citadel. He was not wrong. Being right is just not the same thing as surviving it. So picture a climber on the biggest rock face anyone has ever seen. He read that mountain better than every person below him. Every handhold exactly where he said it would be. The rope is the problem. The rope was never his. It belongs to 3 banks, and they can pull it any time they get nervous. I'm gonna walk you up that rock face. And I am a hater, but I am a professional. So I'll tell you where he was genuinely right on the way up. Let's start with the resume, because it should not be legal. Berlin kid. Goes to Columbia. Graduates valedictorian at 19, with a degree in economics and mathematics and statistics, which is 3 degrees wearing a trench coat. At an age where the rest of us were deciding whether cereal counts as dinner, this man was top of his class at an Ivy. Then he gets his first real job, at FTX. I want to be precise, because this is the kind of detail that sounds like a bit. He joined the FTX Future Fund in February of 2022, and he re-signed before the whole thing detonated that November. So he was early, he was right about leaving, and he still ended up with FTX on the first line of his CV forever. Remember that. It becomes a pattern. Next stop, OpenAI. 2023, the superalignment team, working under Ilya Sutskever, the man who would later try to fire Sam Altman, which tells you the vibe in that building. Leopold's actual job was making sure a superintelligence doesn't kill everyone. Casual. He even co-authored a real paper on it. Then in April of 2024, OpenAI fires him. Their version, he leaked. He shared an internal document with 3 researchers outside the company, his version. He wrote a memo saying OpenAI security was nowhere near good enough to stop China walking out with the weights, and management did not enjoy reading it. I don't know which is true, neither do you. What I know is that a company built on the premise that this technology could end the world fired the guy on the safety team for saying the safety was bad. Beautiful. No notes. A normal person updates their LinkedIn here and goes quiet. 2 months later, he publishes 165 pages. Situational awareness, the decade ahead. 165 pages, self-published, free, no editor, no publisher, no adult supervision of any kind. The argument. Draw the line through the scaling curves. Don't flinch, and you get artificial general intelligence around 2027. Then AI starts doing AI research, and the line goes vertical. Then it stops being a technology story and becomes a national security story, because whoever gets there first gets everything, and the whole internet loses its mind. Every venture capitalist in America suddenly has an opinion on compute clusters. People who could not define a parameter are talking about the trillion-dollar data center. It becomes the single most influential document in AI, written by a guy who had just been fired and had a lot of free time. Now, back to the rope. Because if you genuinely believe what you just wrote, that the biggest build-out in industrial history is starting right now, you do not go get a job, you take the position. So he starts a hedge fund, names it after the essay, which is either extremely confident or extremely unwell. Situational Awareness LP, and the money shows up fast. Patrick and John Collison, the Stripe brothers. Daniel Gross, Nat Friedman. That is not some investors. That is the people who actually own the plumbing of Silicon Valley handing their money to a 22-year-old with a PDF. He starts with under $1 billion, which, in this story, is the humble part. And then the thesis just starts printing. He is long the picks and shovels. The chips, the memory, the build-out. SK Hynix, Micron, CoreWeave. Everything that has to physically exist for his essay to come true. And it all comes true. The build-out is real. The CapEx is real. The stocks go berserk. Through May of this year, he is up about 270%, not since inception, this year. By the halfway mark, the investor letter says 439% net for 6 months. 439. A good hedge fund year is 15. Renaissance Technologies, the most feared quant shop on earth, averaged 66% a year, and they had to close the fund to outsiders to keep doing it. This man did nearly 7 times that in half a year, and he learned finance as a hobby. The fund goes from under $1 billion to $45 billion. Take the win. Genuinely. Whatever happens next, he saw the shape of the thing before almost anyone, and he bet on it with his whole chest. So let's talk about the rope. Because the returns weren't just the thesis. They were the thesis, multiplied. Reported leverage of up to 400%. which means for every dollar of actual money in that fund, there were roughly $4 of position on the board. Borrowed. From the prime brokerage desks at Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan. And leverage is a beautiful, symmetrical little machine. It does not care about your essay. It multiplies whatever direction you are already going. On the way up, 400% leverage is how you turn a very good idea into 439%. On the way down, it is how you turn a temporary dip into a phone call you cannot answer. You do not decide when the rope gets pulled. You are hanging off it, 4,000 feet up, and the decision belongs entirely to 3 risk managers you have never met. In late July, the AI infrastructure trade cracked. And now I want you to be him for a second. It's the last week of July. You are 24. Your fund is worth $45 billion, and you have been right about literally everything for 2 years straight. You open the book on Monday, and the semis are red. Fine. Semis are volatile. You knew that. You wrote 165 pages about why this is a decade-long story. Tuesday, redder. SK Hynix. Micron. CoreWeave, the one that only exists because your thesis was correct. Down hard. And then the other side goes wrong too. Because you weren't only long the build-out, you were short the software companies you thought AI would eat. Those move against you. Both legs. At the same time. There is nowhere in the portfolio that is working. Then the first call comes in. Then the second. Then the third. Bank of America, Goldman, JP Morgan, all asking the same question in the same flat voice. Where's the collateral? And the honest answer is that the collateral is the positions. And the positions are the thing that is falling. That is the yank on the rope. And it turns out the only buyer big enough and fast enough to take a $20 billion book off your hands in a weekend is Ken Griffin. Citadel takes roughly $16 billion of it. At a discount, obviously. You do not get to negotiate when the phone call has already happened. $45 billion, down to about 10. The public portfolio, gone. Sold in one trade to a man whose entire business model is being on the other side of exactly this moment. Pour one out. Accept. And this is the part I genuinely cannot get over. He kept the best thing he owned. The fund still holds its stake in Anthropic. Not because he outsmarted anybody, because Anthropic is private. There is no ticker, no screen, no price that ticks down at 11 in the morning and triggers a margin call. You physically cannot get squeezed out of a position nobody can quote. The illiquid bet survived because it was illiquid. The genius bit was the part he could not sell. And I have to tell you one more thing, because leaving it out would be a crime. He is married to Avital Balwit, who is chief of staff to the CEO of Anthropic. I'm not implying anything. I don't need to. I just think it's very funny that after the banks took everything with a ticker symbol, the last asset standing in the AI Profits Fund was a private stake in his wife's employer. So what actually happened here? The lazy version is that another young guy got cocky and blew up. And you can have that one. It's free. It fits on a thumbnail. But that's not it. The thesis worked. The build-out is real. The chips did get bought. The data centers did get built. CoreWeave exists. He wasn't wrong about the mountain. He was wrong about the rope, about how much of someone else's money you can hang off while you wait to be proven right. Markets don't pay you for being correct. They pay you for being correct while still holding the position. And leverage is the thing that decides whether you get to still be holding it. 3 for 3, by the way. FTX, blown up after he left. OpenAI, fired. His own fund, margin called. This man has now been in the room for 3 separate financial and technological catastrophes before the age of 25, and I am starting to think the common factor is not the rooms. And the genuinely unsettling part, the bit that should keep you up, he might still be right. The essay said 2027. It is 2026. Nothing about last week disproved a single sentence of that document. He may well have been dead accurate about the future and simply not lived to collect, financially speaking. That's the whole lesson, and it costs you nothing. Being early is indistinguishable from being wrong, right up until it isn't, and the bank does not wait around to find out which one you were. Change my mind, and I'll smack the shit out of you. Affectionately. Now get out of here.